And that'll be when the clock does say 10 minutes remaining. But here's the grid then for what will be the Equip Sports prototype race here at Silverstone this weekend. And as we can see, taking pole position there, Mike Genvay by what was only a tenth, if that, over the combination of Edwards and Shute. Behind the Genvay Gun TS6 and the Chiron prototype, we will then see the Juno Sports prototype behind a chance of catching up with this man, Graham Charman, who'll be lining third. And look at the delta, by the way, ladies and gents, but in the end, the delta between the two of them being only what was a tenth. So slender between them, no doubt about it. We'll then have the combination of the Chamberlain family lined up in fourth place in the CTR 01. Keep your eyes out for that. It's going to be a lovely car to see racing. And then we will then come to Nigel Redwood, who will be starting his race in fifth place in the Revolution 500 SC. And I believe that 500 in reference to the brake horsepower of the engine putting out, where some of the cars that start in front of it only have half of that power, if that, and are much smaller engines as well. Smith and Gray will line up in the Wolf Thunder, number 50, starting sixth, ahead of James Abbott in the Revolution 427, who lines up in seventh place on the full throw of the grid, with then Daniel Oliver in the Praga R1 taking to the 8th spot on the grid, and then completing what will be a top 10 will be Alex Champkin in the Phantom PR24 and Graham Cole in the Bicknell PS7. So that's your first 5 rows in your top 10 starters, but we've got more out there, and we also do have then starting in 11th, it'll be Ian Charles in the Radical PR6, ahead of Lee Collar in the ADR3, and then we will come to the final full row of the grid, including the man who Jack was speaking to only moments ago in that earlier interview, the Harrier LR46 driver of Dave Carrascus, and we'll have Craig McMahon starting in 16th place in the Radical SR3, and then line up last on the grid will be Shane Kelly in the Revolution 500 Evo, and that car being from what is the University of Wolverhampton Racing. And it's lights out and away we go, ladies and gentlemen, as those engines absolutely roar. They're practically deafening me, even though I've got a set of headphones on, as they roar the way down towards turn 1. It's a big scramble, the prototypes, as they all use their downforce to assault Cops Bend for the first time of asking, and as they all come on through there, well, right now it's all going to be about who's had the better run down into the maggots, into Beckett's complex hairpin, and the number 35 of Genvay started to pull away already, as the 5, meanwhile, of Jarman has moved up into second. He's had a brilliant start. He said he was going to try and jump into what's second place on the open lap, and he's done exactly that, as the rest of the field now makes its way around here. And well, these machines, of course, at a circuit that's very flat and got sweeping corners, they can really use their wings and their downforce to attack this circuit compared to perhaps other circuits. Coming into what is Brooklands, oh, going to be a bit of a run deep there, side by side, and I think that might be the Revolution 427 of Abbott trying to make some progress there, but having to go a bit defensive, as it is the Praga of Oliver trying to exchange positions. Coming out of the corner, I think that is going to be a change that's been made as they roar the way past. I hear the backfire of one of the engines there, a lovely backfire noise as they come on towards what will be another lap. Well, that's one lap complete. You can imagine how quickly they'll deliver these laps, as going into what is turn number 1 this time around, was Edwards ahead of Chamberlain, but Chamberlain trying to put some early pressure on there as Redwood falling back a little bit in that fifth place. car of Edwards and Shute, so they will be taking their first podium of the season overall, but Kelly will be taking that Class A honours. But here are the provisional results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and as we can see, Mike Genvay then taking victory overall and in Class B after 35 minutes or so of racing, ahead of Edwards and Shute, who rounded off what would be at the top two of Class B. Class A winner and third place overall went to Shane Kelly for the University of Wolverhampton Revolution 500 Evo, ahead of the Chamberlain family powered machine, the CTR 01, that took fourth place. James Abbott, runner up there in Class A, and well, as we do see our tower being updated there, well, we will tell you the race results. I think we had a glitch on our screen, we apologise for that, but fifth place went to Abbott there, run up in Class A, ahead of Class E winner Oliver in the Praga R1, and then we did have Champion taking Class C on his seventh place overall in the Phantom PR24, ahead of Charles, and then it was 9th and 10th to McMahon and Collar. Best the rest in 11th was the Smith and Gray combination in the Wolf Thunder machine, and then we did have the unfortunate retirements of Charman, Redwood, Carrascus and Cole. So 15 starters, and unfortunately in the end, ladies and gentlemen, we only have seen what is a grand total of what will be, I believe, 11 finishers, but still so great to see our Classic Racing Sports prototypes out there.